The recovery of the work, as the jobs, is one of the main challenges that our country is facing in the post-pandemic economy, in a context where traditional sectors don't seem to offer new answers to the growing need of working positions. The digital sector has a good health and needs trained workers. How to enter an area that seems to work even in this crisis?
The ones that want to reinvent themselves, they should do it because this is a wide world. Things have changed and everything is centered in technology and in creating new digital platforms. I studied engineering. I worked 4 years on that. And because of the changes in the country, I quit that industry and study programming. To reinvent yourself, to learn new skills in short time, to adapt to this changing world. This is the path that Janina, Leslie, and 900 other graduated students from the program Digital Talent have taken to get better work prospects and better self-realization. Now, through this initiative, Job Talent, 900 students that are programmers will have opportunities to be in touch with more than 100 companies, national and international, that are looking for new digital talent. The fair is a space of 2 days that is composed on one side by a talk and workshop program that are available for all our graduated students. And this is the space where we want to gather the companies with our students. And technology changes all the time, the productive processes also. Therefore, the worker has to be trained all the time. Likewise, the world is changing at all times. Companies are also doing so. And the drive of this change are people. Walmart today, it is undergoing the biggest transformation of its story. We are creating an ecosystem of digital products, and we need people to work in a collaborative way. They need to think beyond. We are really interested in getting to know this talent so we can add it to our team. And space to gather the new generation of digital talent with the companies that need that talent. That is Job Talent, a joint initiative between Digital Talent and Invest Chile.
And as we saw in this clip, the fair for capital, human capital and job talent is a new event driven by Digital Talent and Invest Chile, where national and international companies seek for young talent. That's very important in the coding field and the technological sector in general. To talk about this topic, we have Vladimir Glasinovic, the Executive Director of Digital Talent for Chile from the Chile Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, I will ask the necessary question: what is digital talent? What are we talking about when we talk about this, looking for young talent this way? Thank you very much for the invitation, Josefa. Well, Digital Talent for Chile, our purpose is to humanize the digital transformation. What we look for is that this global phenomenon of digital transformation that's associated to threat, the loss of jobs, is a synonym of opportunities of improving the jobs, improving wages, and definitely improving the quality of life. That's what we do in Digital Talent. And we do this using short training, short courses, between 3 to 5 months long, using the bootcamp methodology, which is a very intensive. The bootcamp means this military training, military camps, that the people are all-day training, that maybe they didn't know anything about technology or coding, and they finish this course coding, and they can start working in the technological area with good wage, good stability, and they can improve their quality of life. And in that sense, what's important of this fair, not only for people that attend it, but for companies that participate, it's very important. First of all, some fact from the market. Every day in Chile we have a deficit of around 5,000 digital talents. We have positions open in the technological area, and 5,000 positions are not filled. That's a huge loss of working positions. People need to improve their technological development. And what we do in this fair, in this alliance with Invest Chile, is that we will join our first 1,000 promoted from digital talent with Chilean and international companies that need new and young digital talent. They want to start working in the. Is it a profile, specific profile of between certain age to certain age? Do young people have it easier to learn, or can it be beyond this age group? That, of course, we know that it will be easier for them. It's very interesting what you're asking. These trainings are open for people from all age groups, but applicants are mostly about 60% are between 25 and 35 years old. And it's very curious that 70% have some experience in higher education, maybe that they finished their university or a technical institute, or some people that dropped out before because of economical reason or by any other reason didn't find their vocation, and they get this digital talent opportunity as a second opportunity for people that didn't find their opportunity in the first approach to the traditional educational system. Bootcamp offers this second opportunity, second chance. Vladimir, thank you very much for being with us today, and for those that are interested, I will give you this information, and enter your information in the platform of labor fairs, clicking the banner in the lower part of the screen. I would like to remind you that you can follow us using the hashtag InvestChile and become part of our dialogue. And please stay with us, because we will continue talking about this. We will have panels, conversation panels, and we have the view of an expert about the labor challenges that come from this new context. We will continue after this.
Sorry, Josefa will now connect with Mexico to talk with Leticia Gasca to know her vision. She is a co-chair of the Directive Board of Education and Employment of the Community of Global Shapers of the World Economic Forum. How do we prepare for this new evolution of labor at a global level? These are the strategies to prepare for the new economic and labor environment from the vision of an expert.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending where are you getting the connection from. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the invitation and to consider me to talk about this topic that is really passionate for me, where the labor market is going and how can we get prepared. To start, this is important because adults spend 1/3 of our lives working, and this is an activity that we dedicate so much time, and we are evolving so fast because of the technology and other powerful forces that we are going to describe now. So if you are interested to know where the labor market is going, you are in the right place. Let's start talking about where we are standing. We are in this very interesting historical period that is the fourth industrial revolution, that it is based upon the other three revolutions. The first one, the steam revolution. The second one was related to electricity that brought to our lives telephone and bulb. The third revolution, it is the computing one, cell phones. And the fourth one, industrial revolution, it is the one called the artificial intelligence technology revolution. But I have to clear up that there are other forces that are involved in this fourth revolution, that it is because the speed of the change, it is faster than the three previous revolutions. We are at a historical moment of a great change, and this is happening because of the artificial intelligence technology. However, it's important that is not only the technology the one that it is setting the pace of this change. There are other forces that are important, that have incidence in the way we work or study. For example, the climate change. We have 10 years to reduce the contaminant emissions. Otherwise, this is going to have no turn back. Other force that it is shaping the way we work, it is the migration. We have more migration than ever before if we don't contain the challenges of the climate climate change, we are going to see migrant related to climate. The other factor is the aging of the population in many places in Latin America, where we used to say that we have a population bonus with a great amount of young people. In the next decades, we are going to stop having that benefits, and we are going to see more elderly people and aging people that they live more, also almost 100 years. We have to rethink the pension system, the retirement system, and what it means to be in the workplace, people from different ages sharing. Another force also that it is changing the work we work, it is the pandemic. If you have been here in the planet Earth in the last months, you see that COVID has changed the way in which we work, and many of those changes are here to stay. In fact, one topic that, or that term that is popular in the last month, it is that the world is very VUCA. It means volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and also we have to add the factor of technology. It is interesting that this VUCA term, it was invented at the end of the 80s because of the military strategists to define the way in which they perceive the world in that moment in the 80s. Clearly, since then to now, the world continues to be really VUCA, and every time even more. The great challenge it is to know how to adapt. How do we take this advantage? And there is this volatility and changing world. How do we prepare for this fourth industrial revolution? And in the next minutes, I want to share with you some very good strategies for the organizational level for this fourth industrial revolution. And I call this the 4 keys for success. First, to learn, to develop critical thinking, to make better decisions, and to embrace the change, adaptability, and resilience, and to have a data mentality, take advantage of the technology we have. And in this way, we can create situations for the future to be better prepared. Let's start with one of the most important abilities that everyone has to develop. Learn to learn. Everyone calls this learnability. And this is fundamental because if we are in a world that is changing all the time, technology is changing all the time, and the lifespan or the average lifespan of an ability or a skill is 5 years, this means that all the time that we have to be learning. And the rule in English, it is lifelong learning, continuous education. And this is fundamental because the knowledge is power, so learn to learn is a superpower. Probably some people that are listening to me right now, they would be thinking, well, I'm so old to continue all learning and to go back to school and learn new skills. But let me tell you that neuroscience and experience shows us that this is not true. There is no limit for learning. It doesn't matter the age you have. We always can learn new things. And to prove it, I want to tell you a story. This is the story of the DJ, the oldest DJ in the world. Actually, it is a woman. It is Rock DJ. She is a grandmother, Japanese, that plays house music. It's the biggest one in her area. And the fascinating thing about her story is that she was in the school of DJs for the first time without knowing anything about music when she was 70 years old. And when she was asked about how did you do it to acquire this new radical ability at 70 years old, and her answer enlightened us about what we have to do to learn better. She says, I learned music at 70 years old because I went to that DJ school, not thinking about learning music. I was thinking that I wanted to play with music. And that ludic way or playful way is something that helped adults to learn better. So if you are not learning something new today, please, your homework it is to think about what is the next ability that you want to acquire, or what do you want to update or start from zero. And one important strategy to be prepared for the fourth industrial revolution, it is to develop critical thinking and problem solving. This is nothing new. It is a skill that has been with us alongside the history of the humanity. The legend says that Alexander Magnum was a student of Socrates. And this is really interesting because the teacher was asked at some point, what are you teaching him? He is Magnum. So what are you teaching him? Philosophy, medicine, mathematics, politics? And he said, I am teaching him the most important ability that a king should have, that it is to think in a critical way. Since then to now, we have created 1,000 methodologies for critical thinking, and I think that everything is useful, important, but we have to acknowledge this skill and how important it is, and to do something to acquire it. Online courses, books, and many times what we need is just to have a methodology to help us to make better decisions. So I invite you to go and take the first step. Remember that the critical thinking is one of the most important skills for the future of work, not only because we are exposed to a great amount of information, but most of all, in pandemic times, everything is more complex. So the best time and the best way to decide it is with critical thinking. Other very important skill, adaptability and agility to change. I, in fact, wrote a book about this. Cambia Todo is the name. And this is a topic that is particularly important in this time that we are going through. Because what has happened, it is that the pandemic has taken us all out of our comfort zone. Some people stayed in the area of being afraid and scared. Others have learned, and as others have taken advantage of this uncomfortability that the pandemic generates, and you can be successful or a failure. And it's important to acknowledge that to get to this zone and to learn to get out of your comfort zone and to capitalize that uncomfortability, we have to build resilience. And I put this image here because it's the best way to explain what it is resilience and how you acquire it. We have to go to the origin of the word. Resilience is the word that it is very popular the last time, that originally we took it from science. It's a property of any object, a spring in this case, to be expanded and then coming back to the original position or shape. In our case, it is to come back to our center after something happens that takes us out of it. First, we have to have a growing mentality, a growth mentality. And actually, there is a book about it. I recommend this book to you. It is Growth Mindset. And it talks about what do we have to have as this mentality. And this is the difference between being successful in your life or not. This growing mentality or growth mindset, we always can learn some new things. There are no determined levels of intelligence, and we can always be more clever and learn new things, and we have to embrace this feedback. And also to create this resilience, we have to accept the change. We don't have to fight it. It's useless. We have to accept it, and we have to create networks. This is a little bit like a tightrope walker in the circus. I love that picture that you are seeing. Imagine that you are in the circus and you see a tightrope walker making some equilibrium and balance on the tightrope, but they are trusting that they have a network of security. If he or she falls, this consequence is not going to be fatal. In the case of human beings, this is actually very similar. We need to create networks of support, people that are going to be there in case that anything goes wrong. So I invite you to create networks. And the fourth strategy that is fundamental for the future of the work, it is to have data data mentality. And with this, I don't mean that everyone has to be a data scientist or analyst, professionally speaking. It is just to understand the potential that it is on data and to take advantage of the predictive analytics that help us to project this into the future. I can talk to you about a very close example that I have in my company. This is a company that offers predictive analytics to help governments and companies to understand the new technologies and to know how the new technology is going to affect the workforce and how they can retrain these people efficiently to have viable employment in the future, less risky in this world full of robotics and automatization. And also, it's going to help us. What is the future in terms of employment in my industry or my city? Please embrace tools like Fatima and others in the market as well. To be prepared for the future using data, we have to be well informed with data and evidence. This is important. And also, COVID has accelerated the change. A few months ago, we published in the MT Technology Review a paper about how COVID has accelerated the change to robotic and automatization technology and how can we adapt to this. And if you want to go deeper on this topic, send me an email. I will be pleased to share this paper or any other information that we have discussed so far. I think that my time is almost over. That's why I would like to leave you with the last message, some food for thought. First, the world is changing faster than ever. Everything is changing. Embrace the change. And there are strategies that can help us to take advantage of this transformation. Second message, everyone had insight as Sumerak DJ. I can assure you that if you dedicate enough time and energy, you can learn anything. There is no limit. And I invite you that today, after this event, or maybe tomorrow, you can or start walking in that direction for a new ability or skill. You are not going to regret it. And this work and this path to be ready for the work of the future, it is similar to athleticism, because if we want to get fast there, we can be alone. But if we want to get further, we have to go with company. I congratulate you because I think in this event, in this seminar, you are in good company. This is the proof to be ready for change and for the future. And beyond preparing, we can shape the future and to determine how is it going to be our future in the work market. Thank you for your time, and I'm totally open to questions and comments. You can be also in contact with me through my email.
A first question, Leticia. What are the skills that companies will seek after this pandemic?
The most important question that we have to ask ourselves now. Among the important skills are, first, critical thinking and problem solving, mostly because many tasks are going to be supported by technology. And the most important thing here with the human being, it is to be able to do the things that the robot cannot do. The robot cannot make some things, for example, to be empathetic, to understand the context, to interpret it, and to make decisions based on context, and most of all, to have critical thinking and systemic thinking. Those are the most important things that we all have to learn. Sadly, in many universities, I haven't seen in the curriculum or a subject that is called critical thinking for decision making, but I have found a great variety of online courses that are teaching these abilities, and those are good news. We are in a historical moment where we have more alternatives to study than ever before, and that is because of the pandemic. So I invite you to take advantage of these opportunities because we have so many online opportunities, and we can have also a very complicated work scheme, but we can have some free time to learn new things, and we can acquire or get and develop a new skill that can transform the future of our professional career.
Leticia, what initiatives can, or which initiatives can a government support for this new way of working?
I think that the predictive analytics is going to be more important than ever before to have or to make decisions about public policies. Something that I have seen in my company, that in multiple governments in all the world through the predictive analytics, they have been able to understand the evolving of the industries because of the technology affecting them, how they are going, how the regional sectors or areas are going to move forward because of data, how the impact of technology is going to affect the workforce, and that allows them to have very well informed and strategic decisions. For example, how am I going to retrain this great amount of people that I work for, because the automatization of the work, and with these tools, predictive analytics, we are going to do it and to find the solution in the best and fast way, and to increase the employability, not only in the group of people with university degrees or good level of education, but also people that don't have those work opportunities. Many times they are at higher risks in terms of their jobs to being automatized. We have to use the science of data to make decisions based on evidence and to strengthen the employability in all our region of Latin America.
Leticia, I would like to thank you for this conversation, for this space and the time you've had with us.
Thank you.
Undoubtedly, that is a very interesting vision, Leticia. But here we want to land this to the reality of our country. That's why we have invited the main stakeholders of this area. We have men and women here that are participating. We have to explore the challenges we have in terms of digital talent, inclusion, training. How do we start introducing this as an asset to bring investment and new businesses into our country? Here in this study, remotely, we have some people, and we have Mónica Retamal, who's a executive director from Fundación Cura. We have Leslie Herrera, who has a bachelor's from the Digital Talent program. And remotely, as common in this pandemic factor, we have Maria Inés Salamalca, the coordinator of UN Women Chile, and from Equifax. Welcome everyone to this remote conversation and the conversation here and the study as well in this room. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you. The first question will be for everyone. Rankings position Chile in a good place, at least in Latin America, in terms of human capital. But it's far from leader countries in the world, like Singapore. For your different fields, what's the status of Ed-Tech and digital talent here in Chile? I believe we have a great potential that we have to take advantage of. I think Chile is positioned as a country that has known how to address the export supply, but mainly focus on products, and we have to leap towards service export. And the base talent there is key. We have the talent there. We have talent in terms of creative industries, in architecture. But how do we make this talent, how do we disseminate our talent and for it to export services to other places? And there, different abilities, digital abilities, for example, are key in a planet as globalized as the planet that we're in. All these skills have to do with knowledge, with human knowledge. to put value into this and bring it to the outside. This is all key, and everything that we're doing in training and looking again at the export supply or offer in terms of training and installed capacities, well, that is key. Leslie, how do you see this? From my experience, I've realized that even with my partners, I've seen that there's people that have enormous potential. They come from careers that are not that valued in the economic field, and they have a great potential, as Monica told you, to add these digital abilities to other things. They could be an additional, for example, a plus. For example, a lawyer that could go and turn to the digital side field. For example, they could digitize some things from Notary Public. I see it. I see this on a daily basis with my partners who are nurses, architects, lawyers. There's many careers, and we have to act as a whole and learn from everything. Maria Ines, from UN Women, how do you see this challenge? Because the world is changing and the world of labor has to change too. Yes, there have to be many changes. We have to see them because from UN Women, we're convinced that in able to attract more investment, we do need to incorporate at least half of the population in an area that is hard. We nowadays have a long road or journey ahead. For example, the difficulties that women live to access the world of sciences, technologies. Nowadays, more than 30%, less than 30% of the people that research in the world, their researchers are women. And there are less publications in the area of STEM, for example. They are not that well paid in areas of research, and they do not advance at the same speed as men in careers. And we see this in the generation of licenses. In countries such as Chile, for example, region as Mexico, Brazil, where there's high participation of women in university careers, we don't see the reflection of the incorporation of talent and for women to participate in the same way in the STEM careers, for example. And that, I believe, is one of the main challenges, because if we want to bring more investment, we have to incorporate that talent. What do you think about this, Gustavo? From the private world in Equifax, we had a bet 11 years ago with Equifax. We nowadays have many more companies in software development that are being implemented in Chile, deployed, because there's a productive matrix of materials to export, and there is a productive matrix from the network of universities of professionals of great quality. And nowadays, organizations such as Codea, Laboratoria, we have people that come from a motivational origin more than university. And this has made the rate very high. We see different professionals that are of great quality. And there are many companies, not only because of economic reasons or because of the stability of Chile are here, because maybe the talent is there. I'd like to go with Monica here in the room. What are the main challenges, Monica, that are faced, that I identified in the current development of ed-tech and in terms of digital talent in our country? I'd like to say first that the software is eating the world. This is not a Chilean problem. It is a global problem. There's not enough human capacity nowadays to absorb the demand because of digital talent in the world, and that's good news. Yes. Now we, from public policies, or what we have to think how we can capture part of that demand that is unsatisfied, that is there in the plan, and that logic, that is very important, because the countries that are able to ride the digital wave and seize this new revolution, as it's happened in all the previous industrial revolutions, are those people that do what they have to do in terms of labor reforms, in terms of training. Sorry, but this revolution that we lived in the last 9 months, what happened in a decade had to happen in a decade. They happened in a semester. Yes, data shows that we had data what was going to happen in 10 more years. That happened this year. So of course there was a massive digitalization, but of course that digitalization has to go accompanied with the development of skills that are hire, not only to consume and go and digitize what we do, but to be able to add value, which is something different that being connected to Zoom all day. On the one hand, we have enormous demand. On the other side, we have stagnant and traditional labor trajectories. As Leslie said, the person that studies to be an attorney believes that they will die being an attorney, and that does not exist anymore in the world. We have installed that we'll have to go back to restudy once and again, retrain to stay in force and to have more labor resilience. And that is critical because in terms of the supply of training programs, we don't have these careers that never end, but we have to have a good offer and supply of short trainings that allow us to stay updated, keep updated, and that is what has always happened in the technological industry. Obsolescence is so high in this industry that everyone that's worked there, we know that what happened last year doesn't exist anymore. You have to restudy and certify yourself in something new. So these famous boot camps is something that is happening in the developed world. Digital talent, we've seen that this is happening in New York, in Paris, and London. Why? Because we know, and we're very well aware, the massive training of the labor force is something that is fully necessary for what you're talking about, the pandemic. The pandemic has evidence that there's many people in companies that have to convert themselves, or you have to turn them over. When we have these transaction costs, for example, when I connect with you and I don't need an intermediate, we realize that we have to be lighter in terms of management, and technology puts this into evidence. So those people that do not offer value anymore to organizations, they have to go, they have to retrain to be useful again.
This has to do with Maria as well as when could the digital specialization can have an influence. We talked about this before, and in the professional and personal life of workers today, the specialization, digital specialization, how does the picture change? Well, from my personal experience, I'm a commercial engineer as a profession, and I was able to apply those not specialist knowledge. And currently I work at an e-commerce, and I was able to mix both knowledges to make them compatible, specializing in coding. So it's in the end, it's something that can help you even to automate, to have a global vision, and to help the company grow. So it's a huge tool. Exactly. Marianes, how do you see this? The digital specialization, how much does it help not only women, workers in general? Well, I think that here, with this pandemic, this has set a huge challenge that we already had a crisis before that had to do with automation of the employment, and that's been accelerated with this pandemic. And we had information that we hope that by the end of 2020, more than 7.1 million jobs will be just removed, and most of the jobs will disappear by 2050. And Gustavo, you said this at the beginning. Which are the digital talents that you're looking for, that companies are looking for? What's the kind of talent what companies are looking for in this digital talent? Well, I would say that companies to hire, they're looking for leaders. There's a base level that's specialized, that has just been trained, that basically seeks to have a passion for technology and the capabilities of learning, something that Chilean companies don't have much, but foreign companies bring a lot to this market. They come here and I will train you. As long as you want to learn, you can develop with us and you will have a future. In general, that's the base at that level. At an intermediate level, they are looking for highly specialized people, especially today with the boom of cloud technologies and everything that has to do with Amazon, with Microsoft. They are expecting people in these more intermediate or higher sectors talent that will be able to train the new employees. Those are the things that are being looked for by companies, and the capability of speaking or communicating in English. You can work with people around the world, and you need to be able to communicate basically, at least. And that because of that, those that just finish studying and people that have more experience, it becomes a must. It's not an option. Monica, in your experience, what's the total, as Gustavo, what's the digital talent that companies are looking for today? Well, I think that one of them is that the most required one is the capability of developing technology. That when you go to the profile and ask companies, the first thing is that they need for him to know how to code. That's very generic. You can code in different languages, etc. And the reconversion programs that we have leave you at the first floor of that, and you need to understand that from there you need to start choosing flavors and etc. And there's a lot of people, and a lot of people is needed that has to do with experience design, the front end of the web page. The users of technology knows that it's very different to have a software that you don't really know how to use, that you don't need to know how to press, or these experienced developers make this software flow. You would say that, okay, that marks a difference, a huge difference between buying or not buying this, because front design is something that's extremely interesting, and it's been very important with us with the front specialties, because there's a lot of need and capabilities in Chile for the design, a very good design. So it's like what they were saying, it's an upskilling for a designer that becomes a front designer that can solve a lot of things. I would say that those are the most relevant requests. And the next question is for the four of you. It has to do with how can Chile improve this digital talent? And how can this help, Leslie, for instance, to bring greater investment to our country? How to improve digital talent, and how can that bring more investment and better investment? Well, as in these programs, for instance, the digital talent, the CODEA, as a laboratoria, to keep driving more people to be, maybe even setting the requirements a bit lower and starting, from my personal opinion, with younger people, to help young people to learn that they are curious before to start using technology to change things that are born in the digital area. Most of us are not. And let me tell you something. My niece, she's 18 years old, and she's from a digital area. There's a lot of things that she doesn't know how to use, PowerPoint or Word. She doesn't need that because she has a cell phone. She doesn't know how to use a computer. Could you believe that? I mean, from our mindset, that you had to learn both worlds. Young people don't necessarily know this, and they need to learn, as they were saying before, to learn how to learn, to motivate them to learn by themselves. There's a lot of information that you can auto-train, cheap training courses, to wake up this learning, that they notice, that they realize that you have knowledge in your hand, literally, and the possibility of changing yourself and change the country. Same question for our remote contacts, Maria Inés and Gustavo. How can Chile attract or improve this digital talent, and how can that help that investment grow and are better in our country? Maria Inés, I think that it's basic to have national policies for science and technology that have a high impact with a long-term view. I think that having national strategies for the long term from the Ministries of Technology and Science, we had a dialogue with the ministers of Science and Technology from Colombia, Argentina, Chile also, and one of the main goals in these national plans of technology that also are incorporate more and more the importance of reducing gaps in the sense of being able to involve women and young girls in STEM careers. Women from certain groups are more discriminated. They would talk about racial components, because if we double-click in the access of technology, obviously today we have a lot of challenges of digital gaps in Latin America that we need to strengthen. And I think if we have policies with a view of coordination with other ministries to strengthen institutions, it's fundamental to create national policies that allow us to think about this 2050 to attract that talent, to create it with a view of linked to education, research, innovation. We think that it's basic. And another important point is that from the employers, from companies, to retain the talent. And that talent also, apart from retaining it, to enable it, to create those capabilities and the necessary skills for that 50% of jobs that we don't know yet. Gustavo. Actually, Maria said something that's very important. Even if the national policies will be very important, I think that private world, the ones that are part of the market today, we have a component that we need to bring back. New generations that we are hiring now expect to be able to contribute to society what society has contributed to themselves, given their training. You are hiring people not only to come here and develop, they want to do something more. That's where we, as a private world, we need to have the duty to go to university and cooperate with organizations like ODEA, Laboratoria, and other organizations to train that capital that we have. It has to be a joint venture between both of us. The base of IT professionals that are trained today has a great quality. And another thing important, Chile should be able to generate a policy for training, but for that professional that is already older in the market, between 40 and 50 years old. IT, the useful life is very short, and we need to change that. We need to be able to train in new technologies to that age group, because that age group today, maybe they're not part of the new technologies, but they have a lot of experience that we can absorb. And if we have a program to include that level, will help us a lot. This, Gustavo, with you, I would like to go from the public role to the role of private companies. What's the role, the contribution of private companies for the development of this digital talent? We have some sort of a diagnosis from the public side. But now, from the private side, I think that many companies today that cooperate with Invest Chile know that the number of companies that are looking for creating development centers in Chile is very important. So there's a clear signal from the private world to show the state that even if Chile is a good copper export, is very good in exporting copper. Part of the productive matrix of Chile should be software development. We have a huge opportunity. The minds of people don't have a limit. So the private world is believing in Chile, which is more than Chile is believing in itself from the digital perspective. I think that today there's companies that are starting that have new ways of interacting with employees that are different from what we are used to. Not only hiring experienced people, but producing and creating the talents that they need, and they are generating an entry of value, a generation of value that goes beyond exporting raw materials. That's a contribution from our side as a private world, that the state should be more involved, or noticing that the market moves in that direction. I qualify this personal experience in this digital program. It was a 180-degree change. Everything changed in my life. I think that I'm extremely happy with the experience that I lived. It's very intense. You have to study a lot, as Monica says. There are very short programs where you need to learn a lot in very short time. But I came from a very traditional industry where I had to use uniforms and to get there a certain time, very structured as a school, yes. And from the school to another school. And, well, to change to this world, that's everything is fast, you're learning things every day, it's very dynamic. Personally, fills me up. I think that to focus from women point of view, you need to know that you have this possibility. You can start working on these programs, and it's very satisfying to change, to know that it doesn't matter how old you are, because I don't have an IT title. They hired me just looking at my skills and what I learned. So to notice, oh, whoa, I don't need a title. Could this be real? Well, I will try this because so I don't have a work now. I don't have a job. I will try to study, and it worked, and it's real, and I'm very happy now. I will take this conversation to digital talent evolution in our country in the next decade. How do you see this? Could this become a more competitive asset to attract investment in Chile?
Hopefully. At least every day, I wake up every morning really and think it should be like that, should work out like that. I think that everyone that is in positions where we can decide, we have to fight that battle because countries and revolutions like this, they have gaps of opportunities. They have to know how to capitalize them. There's countries, and history shows this, that they're able to visualize the opportunities and make the policies and all the forces and the energies go towards that direction. I think that we all have to be capable of we're starting to dream again. We're starting to connect with the needs of the country. So we all have to take advantage of this moment, not only to look at the past, but to project Chile in the 21st century. And this issue, which is human capital, who our people will be, what's the value that Chileans will contribute to humanity, this is critical. That's why I believe we need to do this. I think that digital talent and the public policies that we're implementing, they're a great hope for them. But we do need a lot of support. We need companies to also believe in this human capital. Because, of course, in Chile, they still ask you in your resume what you studied, where you studied, and, of course, there has to be a change there. We have to be open for there to be more diverse talent in organizations, and therefore we are the ones that have to do this change, make this change of mindset. But the truth is that the possibility is there, the talent is there. Chile, throughout the whole country, has enormous talent. So we have to see how we'll be part of this revolution. So Gustavo, how do you see the projection towards this next decade? I think it has to do a bit more. I'm thinking about how it has to happen, really. Nowadays, Chile at a global level, it is standing well standard. I have said this before, and I'll reinforce. If countries like Equifax, they're with $4 million, and they are in the center of Santiago versus Ireland, where they have benefits, fiscal benefits, versus the U.S., versus any other country at a global level. This is all linked to the fact that the productive capacity that we currently have versus the cost, they have very good, great radios. In Equifax, when we go and we do the debates, the cost benefit for the company is better in Chile than in India. Countries that were historically cheaper, that's why it was done there. So it's not if it's going to happen or not, it's how it's going to happen. So from the private world, from organizations such as Laboratoria, Codea, that are working to digitalize, that's how we'll work here. I think that in these types of instances where there's different areas of the market collaborating, we will generate connections that will make us continue working. So that is very important both for me and for us as a company, that the private world is not isolated from the state government world and organizations. We need to all work together because at the end of the day, we are just one unique country, one society, and we have to work on that, based on that. Maria Inés, your turn. I do agree, because in Latin America we are in a moment that is proper for countries to do many things. One is planning, pursuant to this context and this productive economic context future, and this revolution is ongoing. It starts to shape, and I think there has to be more coordination between the institutions, different organizations, including organizations of civil society, organizations that are working in digital literacy, the creation of capacities, development of talent. And an important point that we need has to do with investment. Training programs that do adjust to the demands that exist now and in this vision from now to 2050 that will require funding, and I think that that funding is not public investment, but it's also private. We have to boost that look, the perspective, which is intersectorial work that accompanies the identification of the skills that we're currently needing. It's great for you to motivate everyone that is looking at this space, that is observing now, for you to recommend workers to take this initiative of taking their digital talent to be a bit more competitive in the world. Would you recommend this, Leslie? Yes, fully. And I'm going to say that you do not have to be afraid not to have a professional title or a bachelor's degrees, because there are some works that need more mathematical work, etc., but not all works need this degree. They were talking about user experience. There's many things you can do, and that you come with that information. That you can apply your knowledge, you can mix your knowledge, you can continue studying and up to better labor opportunities. So I would recommend, even if you do not enter a program, you can start looking at your learning path. It is, and you have YouTube. There's many very cheap courses on the internet. Even if you do not enter a program such as this one, I do recommend to go into the world of programming for personal satisfaction. Knowledge is being duplicated once a year at least. So if we are concerned about staying updated, it's our thing. So learning is something that is here to stay. So we're all called to come back and study constantly in an ongoing manner. Nowadays, there are many alternatives to study again, which are free, paid, abroad, here. So there's no excuse not to do so, and I believe that there's something that is key here. Not only is this related to work, but I think that on 2027, this is already happening. It's more than 50% of the labor force. It's increasing. And the world of independent or autonomous individuals is people that will have to generate a differentiated offer or supply of value, and differentiate itself and cooperate with the different companies, but because companies will have to adapt to a force that it's a little bit more liquid. So it's key. It's very important to focus on personal training. Maria Inés, I think we also have to focus on, besides the importance of really developing these new talents, a new point I'd like to highlight is that those workers that are currently incorporating, they are developing these new skills. We need to give them visibility, make them visible. We talked about role models here, and I think that in a policy of strengthening the development of skills, we do have to show role models, good examples that are showing you what Monica has just mentioned, the professional development, individual skills for them to have, personal ventures that need individual responsibility on the one hand, but to call the private sector and the employer sector to draft a roadmap for digital transformation, and for that to include gender perspective. I think it's very important not to leave half of the population outside of this transformation. We need to retrain and elevate or increase the competences of women here. And we also need to promote the hiring of or recruitment of women in the sector. And we need to talk about the importance of intersectorial partnerships. Gustavo, what is your recommendation? First of all, I couldn't agree more with what they just mentioned. We need to migrate from saying, okay, we do not discriminate by gender, to truly drive or push towards the direction that we do not want to insert gender equity, that we want to insert gender equity within our company. We have to work actively for this. I am from the IT world. I have worked in the same company for 11 years, and I believe that everything that has to do with digitalization, the development of software, gives you tremendous potential. You have career, you have development, very, very high probabilities. I remember a couple of years ago we talked about informatic engineer would not be more than 1 week without a job because they would find another one right away because there is a gigantic need. So we need to recommend this. It is mental work that needs much thinking. Thinking, it is quite active. You feel that what you're doing every day is many labyrinths and games more than simply just a job. It's hard to give the first step, but once you do that, you do not feel afraid anymore. You lose fear and you can continue on this path, a great path that anyone can do. Mónica Artamal, Marina Salamalca here in the studio, and Gustavo Rivera through a remote meeting, which is pretty normal. We'd like to thank you for your time, for your space, for going deep into this very, very important issue. Let's continue here with the seminar, and please pay attention to the following information. Thank you, Andres. I'd like to comment that Invest Chile speaks the language of investors. The agency has a team of professionals able to attend your needs of foreign companies such in Spanish, English, Chinese, French, German in a free manner. To know a bit more about Invest Chile, I'd like to invite you to watch the following video.